Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka Mono Bluetron, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. So today we're fulfilling a request from a viewer and doing our best impression of Ghost or Girl by playing a little deck I like to call Altergeist. Now, the Altergeist deck profiles online are kind of a dime a dozen, but they always seem to focus on the same things: cheesy spellbook invoked strategies, and that's about it. I think it's high time someone tapped in on the innate power and utility of very strong cards like Altergeist Marionetteer and Altergeist Melusik, and use them in a strategy that respects their ability as stun monsters, not just fodder for invoked flexibility. So, I present to you Altergeist Paleozoic. So, here's the list. Now, you'll notice there's a fair amount of nonsense going on in here, so as always, I will give you a little bit of a history about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and as always, the card by card. So first, for those of you who don't know, Altergeist is an archetype of spooky spellcasters, used in the Vrains anime by the best character, Ghost Girl, an elite hacker who sometimes teams up with all the other elite hackers on the show. Like every other anime archetype, it is still in its infancy, but it currently consists of a couple of monsters that primarily interact with their tribal trap cards, which allow them to negate effects, become untargetable, and reborn from graveyard. You know, like hacking does. Maybe. I'm not very good with computers. And what better pair for a semi-stunny line of trap monsters than everyone's favorite stun dweebs, the Paleozoic frogs. Now, not very many other archetypes consistently search trap cards from the deck, so it is entirely possible that these put up a good argument for an inclusion in an already powerful frog strategy. By adding the traps to the hand, we can easily open with a Marionette and 4 traps, then on our next turn trigger enough Paleozoics to make a totally awesome. Melusik destroys individual cards on the field, breaking up already established boards that occasionally give the frogs trouble. It floats, and it's water from a Starboy, and the Altergeist traps are pretty good too. Protocol negates effects, which either substitutes for a totally awesome on your first turn, or provides double protection for a board that has already been established. This deck is also a prime candidate for main deck order and anti-spells, since it is literally playing 3 spells total. So, with that, let's get on to the card by card. First, we have the Garbage Geists. Kunteri doesn't work on all the way on YGO Pro or G2 Pro or whatever I'm using today, but it isn't fantastic anyway. It specials itself and negates attacks conditionally. Silky Ass bounces Altergeists and cards your opponent controls. It's kind of like the Licorice to Marionette's Candino with upside, but unfortunately it can only be activated while on the field. Marionetteer is fantastic, searching and immediately setting one of our Altergeist traps. It can also swap Altergeist monsters on the field for ones in the graveyard. Next is Melusik, which can attack directly and sends cards your opponent controls to the graveyard. When it dies, you can add an Altergeist. Next are the cards that need no introduction at all: Froggies. 3 copies of Swap Frog, 2 copies of Ronin Totem, and 2 copies of Dupe Frog. Less dupe than normal, but the space is tight. The only spells are 2 Knowledge and a Secrets, since the Altergeists aren't particularly good in multiples, and you kind of want them in the graveyard anyway, and they're all spellcasters. We might as well draw some cards off of them. After that is 3 copies of Altergeist Protocol, which prevents negation of Altergeist cards and allows you to negate monster effects by sending Altergeist you control to the graveyard. Then 3 copies of Materialization, which is Call of the Haunted, that can be banished from the graveyard to get a trap back. And finally, 1 copy of Altergeist Camouflage, the weakest of the 3, which prevents targeting or attacking and can be banished to prevent monster destruction. For Paleos, we have 3 copies of Olean Nades, 3 copies of Dynamiscus, 3 copies of Morella, and 2 copies of Candina, since it's kind of at an all-time low. A lot of stuff that can't be targeted or set face down these days. Finally, we have 1 copy of Lightsworn for Morella, 1 Imperial Order to steal us games, and 2 anti-spell Fragrances. Fragri? No, that sounds wrong. In the extra, we've got 1 Altergeist Prime Banshee and 2 Altergeist Hextia. I don't think we're ever going to make these cards. 2 copies of Starboy, 1 Decode Talker, 1 Abyss Dweller, since technically we can make rank 4s, 3 Froggeronis, 1 Opabinia, 1 Anomaly Karis, 1 Skycav, 1 Digusto Phoenix, and 1 Cat Shark. So with that, let's jump into the duels. Our first match is up against Rocket, a deck that I have no idea if it's good or not, since it came out at about the same time as Spiral became super dominant. My gut tells me no, but some of these quick play spells are pretty powerful. We do get to start, which is excellent. We'll start by normal summoning this Altergeist Marionetteer, getting ourselves the Altergeist negation spell that is Altergeist Protocol, setting 5 and passing back, probably the best start we could hope for. He'll activate Gateway Dragon, we'll Protocol that sucker, that destroys it and negates its effect, and as soon as he activates the quick play spell, well, here comes the Imperial Order. This should be the end of the game. We'll use Morella at end step to mill Lightsworn so that we can trigger it off of the Oleanades that we expect to hit at end step as well. Then we'll activate Altergeist Materialization to get back the Marionetteer and also a copy of Oleanade. So now we have Marionetteer and a totally awesome. Things should be just about wrapped up. And I mean, Imperial Order really is the star of this game. The card is absolutely disgusting, especially against a deck whose power plays all involve spells. In standby, we're going to get ourselves a Dupe Frog, and our opponent is going to normal summon a Magnavolt Dragon, which of course has to attack the Dupe Frog. He'll activate the effect of Destrudo, but we will take that, please. And now I really want to kill him with the Destrudo. I think it's really a disservice to the deck if I do anything else. So I'll start by getting Swap Frog and setting a copy of Ronin Totem. Then I'll go into Decode Talker of all things, using Totally Awesome's effect to return Swap Frog, and then using Swap Frog to send another Ronin Totem. We'll go into a Totally Awesome, flip up the Destrudo, and attack over the 1800 and for 1,000 points of lethal damage. So pretty convincing first game. Our second match is up against Lightsworn, a historically pretty wonky matchup for Paleo Frogs, especially if they're going first, as they are in this specific scenario. We've drawn into double Marionetteer, which is not particularly good for us. 2 copies of Oleanades is also not great against the deck that doesn't really play a lot of spells and traps, and Anti-Spell is okay, but nothing to write home about. Our opponent's going to start by using Lumina's effect to, well, basically do nothing. Mill 3 at end step and pass it back, so maybe we have a shot. We'll start by normal summoning this Marionetteer and getting a protocol set, then setting 3 others, attacking and passing it back. In draw step, we're going to go ahead and blind hit that set card because we have 2 Oleanades, and what do you know, it's Soul Charge. That's excellent. Our opponent's going to use Solar Recharge. In retrospect, we could have flipped the Anti-Spell Fragrance, but I really want to get the trigger off of the Oleanades, but once we negate this, they'll just concede. So very fast game 2 there. A lot of decks that require monster effects to kind of do their power plays are sort of hopelessly lost against Altergeist Protocol. Unfortunately, this third game, we're going second against a deck you really don't want to brick against, and what do you know, we kind of bricked. A copy of Silcadios with no other Altergeist in hand, a Swap Frog with no Water Guy to discard to him, a Protocol that I doubt we're ever going to get to use, and our opponent has a pretty alright opener. I've thought about Waboku and Threatening Roar in Trickstar. It's kind of cute because it allows you to get just additional activations off of things like Licorice because they don't die to anything but card effects, but you'll see how it plays out in this game. Our opponent's going to start with a Candina. They're going to go ahead and set that light stage, get themselves a Licorice. 2 Licorice activations in a row means that there's no chain summoning, and I breathe a short sigh of relief, which is immediately replaced by a tightness in my stomach as I see them set 2. Thankfully, they are not reincarnations, so we're not just dead in standby. We're going to go ahead and set a card, just kind of testing, then go for Swap Frog. We'll send a copy of Ronin Totem, and I guess set 4 pass. It's not ideal. We could return the Swap Frog to hand, but I'm not really feeling it. We'll use Oleanades to destroy the light stage after they activate it. They go and get another one with Candina. Thankfully, we have just the thing for this scenario, another Dynamiscus. Keeping the light stage off board is really critical, especially if you want to be stopping those extra burn activations. I get very low in every game against Trickstar, so it's important. We'll Candina this last attacking monster and get ourselves an Oleanades from grave. This should get us a Totally Awesome on our turn, unless we are severely unlucky and they have like another Licorice in hand, but thankfully they don't. We'll go ahead and get this Ronin Totem out, make it Totally Awesome, so things are looking okay. They go for Threatening Roar. That allows us to get Dynamiscus. They go for Waboku. That allows us to get Canadia, and I already have visions of Dupe Frog in my head, so I'm going to go ahead and get these Paleos as well. At the very least, it sets up a bit of a wall. We're going to use Toad in standby. They're going to chain a Reckless Greed, which allows us to get yet another Paleo from grave, and then we'll get ourselves a Dupe Frog. Just a fantastic card, Dupe Frog. If you don't know, it actually has the lure effect on it. They'll go face with the copy of Lilybell, and we blind hit a reincarnation, which is good and bad. I mean, you really don't want the reincarnation in graveyard. I want them to activate it, and then I get it. They are going to activate it here, so we'll take at least 1 copy of reincarnation, but unfortunately, we aren't going to be able to kill their stuff by battle this turn. Thankfully, we do have a bit of a backup plan here. Because their cards can still be destroyed by card effect, we're going to go into Mistar Boy and then Anomaly Karis. We'll start destroying cards. We'll get Canadia. We'll activate this protocol with no effect in order to get an Oleanades, and then we can make another Totally Awesome with a Ronin Totem. So things are looking very good for us now. Our opponent's going to not draw because they're under Reckless. Then they're going to go ahead and attack with this Lilybell. We will destroy it. They will, of course, banish the reincarnation. And woo, what did we draw but Lost Wind, a card that now can negate her effects so she can't attack directly and they concede. So we're back with the deck. Honestly, I really like it. I consider myself a bit of a frog fanatic, so I'm always on the lookout for cute techs in Paleo, and I think I might have just stumbled on one. There's a couple of downsides, of course, the biggest one being that there are really only 2 good Altergeist cards. I would definitely remove the 2 randos up at the front from the deck. They're not nearly impactful enough, but the other 2 are more than adequate. In order to find them more often, I think I would probably go up on the amount of spellbook cards I'm playing, something like Double Blue Boy, another Secrets, at least. And to be honest, I think Spell Smell is more of a sideboard card for the strategy than something like, I don't know, maybe like a Heavy Duster, or a Torrential Tribute, or like maybe even just Solemn Strikes. Finally, we can definitely shave a copy of Protocol at least. You really only need 1 to resolve, and the other trap does a very good job of returning it to your hand. But yeah, if you think your froggy builds are getting stale, try giving it this Halloween twist. So that's that. I'll definitely be trying this deck out tonight at 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time over on twitch.tv/monobluetron if you all want to stop by and tell me how garbage I am. As always, if you have an idea for a deck or archetype you want me to try out, let me know in the comment section below, and I will see what I can do. Otherwise, I'll see y'all on Monday.